Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, we both get points. Welcome to the Game Over crossover as the Flames fall in a shootout to the Vancouver Canucks. Thank you so much for tuning in to everyone except Kaya May. My name's Conrad Krausert, Zach King joining me, and Kaya May is going to be using some really lame Whitecaps cheers in chat, and whatever.
Now that's
Flames
a team
are
worth celebrating.
Yeah, that's true. Flames are still on top in the standings board. But once again, welcome to a Game Over crossover. These are always fun, and as you can tell, we are definitely prepared to be a little bit fun in this one. Zach, I'll let you say what jersey you're wearing before we go into any of our reads, because it's a little bit of a personal story for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta shout out the Poco Trailblazers. Season came to an end. I unfortunately eliminated in the PJHL playoffs, so that means my broadcasting season is over now, and I can fully let myself sink into Canucks-based misery. Although tonight, not quite as miserable as most nights have been as of late.
And we'll keep the misery on this side of the Rockies, I suppose. But before we get any further, let's get into this ad read. Shift into Hyperdrive. You're ready to have some fun with your news source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. When it returns, they've had a little bit of a scheduling change, so please still stay subscribed. It will be coming back. Just trying to figure out the schedule on that one. But Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Oat, Daphne Malouf, and Kevin Larmay to get your fill on the stories happening in the hockey world. You can watch on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on your podcatcher of choice. And head on to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. But anyways, let's do a scoring recap as two of the bottom five offenses met today. And as we said, it kind of was like, who doesn't want to play defense in this game? Kind of felt like how it was going to go. And it did start out pretty well for you guys as Pius Suter opened the scoring. Assist that's Marcus Peterson. I'm just seeing last names and I'm like, which Peterson is it? You guys have three of them now. Please find a new last name. And Philip Hronek. So yeah,
we need more. You know, there's a few Pedersons that are signed to contracts that are not with the Canucks, and I do think we need to trade the rest of our draft capital to get them.
Yeah, trade for them now so they can't play in the playoffs. That's the smart idea. Because reminder that it is technically legal to still make trades. They just can't play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Everyone makes a huge deal about the trade deadline, and things can still happen after, but it would be pretty funny to trade for someone and then just them be useless.
Yeah, they can't play in the playoffs, but hey, you made the show, right? Like,
there's a decent chance there's going to be a few players from our teams not playing in the playoffs, depending on how the last stretch of the season goes.
Yeah, and we were in group chat between the two of us, and you're saying, "Oh, a power play goal," and no, it wasn't. It was just 5-on-5 after Connor Zari's penalty had expired. After he tried to take someone's head off, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in the show as well. So it's 1-0 Canucks to open this one. And then, I don't know what it is about the Flames. When we're behind, we seem to score just absolute highlight reel goals. And this certainly falls into that category. As Rasmus Andersson, one of the nicest passes I've seen this year, finds Nazem Kadri as he kind of just found that soft spot between the defenders, like a striker in another sport. But Kadri finds the back of the net, absolutely unmarked, 1-1 after one. So where was your head after the first period of this one, Zach?
Honestly, it came out of the gates being really intense. I thought that if you just looked at the shots on goal, that didn't accurately reflect the chances. I thought the teams, it was really weird where it felt like they were giving up a lot of offensive chances and then just barely getting the shot block through at the last possible moment, where the chances there, but the shots weren't. I kind of thought it was back and forth, and I really was reminded that these are two teams that the effort was there, but without sounding too insulting, I had it written down. Felt like a playoff game between two non-playoff teams. Is what is what I wrote.
That's an accurate description.
The atmosphere was absolutely electric. So many little brawls. It was a very chippy game between the two sides. But after one period, it definitely did just. I wasn't necessarily wowed, even though it was very entertaining.
So I'll agree with you on a lot of those points. However, we all know how the Saddledome gets when playoff time comes around. There was a lot of blue in that building. If this was a true playoff game, there would not have been that number of blue jerseys in the lower
sea of red
bowl.
is a fun barn. For
Oh,
sure.
it is once the games start to matter. And, I kind of expected today to be more Flames fan-centric, but there was a lot of ugly blue whale jerseys in the first 3 rows. Go back to the stick logo and I'll start respecting your jerseys again.
Wow,
But
of all
anyways,
the logos, that's the one.
I'm a little biased. It was the one that the Calgary Canucks wore, and anyways. But second period comes and the Canucks retake the lead once again. This time Jake DeBrusk from Hughes and Pedersen. This was a power play marker, and this was just after
Power play goal.
Yeah, after you had said, "Oh, you don't need to worry, Conrad. It's just a Canucks power play," and like literally 12 seconds after seeing that come across my screen, goal goes in, and you just haven't been using your mystical powers all season. That's all I'm learning.
It was an incredible caster's curse, which I did not know you could do not being a caster for the game, but apparently it works just great after I mentioned how non-threatening the Canucks power play seemingly always is. A beautiful chance, and it was capitalized on, right away. And that was the kind of goal it takes to beat Dustin Wolf's stellar play, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. But
yeah. But
he was unreal.
So, how many games has Quinn Hughes missed in the last little bit?
So he's missed 10 of the last 13. So it was very worrying, and he was a game time decision tonight. You couldn't tell though.
And he has 47 assists even when missing 10 games. That's a pretty impressive number from I'd have to say least publicized potentially on a NHL wide scale of the Hughes brothers. So
I think that's fair given his status within the NHL as a whole. He's not super marketed as a superstar. I think largely because he just looks so sad all the time while he's playing. It's hard to be like, come, check out the sad guy. He will score. I don't know. Hard marketing swing.
To be fair, he was more looking like the mad guy in today's game. He
had a funny evil laugh at one point, which was doing the rounds on Twitter and Blue Sky. Quite funny watching his evil chuckle after he sat to the bench. But for the most part, whenever the cameras pan over him, he looks just forlorn, utterly just sad with the state of affairs, even when the Canucks are winning.
But then the power play giveth and the power play taketh away. Jonathan Huberdeau, another, gotta say, pretty goal. Good effort there from Kevin Rooney to win the race the puck, and then Huberdeau, it was kind of like a flop shot in golf where you just got to angle your stick the right way and just kind of hope it goes in off the bottom of the crossbar, lights up the red light, and a shorthanded goal for the Flames, which, I wasn't too fond of our penalty kill today because, as Flames fans know, we lost Michael Backlund in the first period, and he is so much of what makes our penalty kill work. So seeing that we got a shorthanded goal in this game was a shock to me, and and the fact that we only allowed one when we were missing your best center in that situation. It's better than it should have been probably for the Flames tonight with the man disadvantage.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. That was a play that I was really not happy about for Vancouver. A 2-on-0 shorthanded, just an utter breakdown through the neutral zone, and just guys trying to pinch. And as you said, great play by Rooney to be able to win that battle quickly, and he really put on the Jets to get away. But was not happy seeing the Canucks giving up a 2-on-0. Like a shorthanded goal, that can happen sometimes, especially if it's kind of one man playing in the high diamond, is able to break up a pass between the defense. Okay, that's a little more understandable than giving up a full 2-0. So I was not too happy about that one. And the whole second period as a whole, I thought was the Canucks' weakest period, even though on the scoreboard it didn't get away from them too badly. They held their own. I definitely thought the second was the weakest of the three frames.
Yeah, and before we completely dismiss the second period, the Flames did get another goal. Once again, it's Jonathan Huberdeau who kind of took the pass at around the top of the circles and just wired it. The official didn't see it go into the net. A lot of the Flames players didn't see it go into the net. A lot of the Canucks players didn't see it go into the net. Jonathan Huberdeau was off celebrating. Eventually, the ref did see it stuck behind the back post and near the water bottle. And so the only people that were celebrating were the Flames fans and Jonathan Huberdeau for a little while, which was kind of funny to watch.
I didn't see it go in for sure. What an absolute bullet. Watching that replay, what a snipe from Huberdeau. Tonight, really a good game for guys on theoretically horrible contracts.
Yeah, it's still not a great contract, but as they're saying, I don't know, you probably get actually a different audio feed, because I don't know if you had Kelly Rudy as your color guy for tonight.
Yeah, it was national, so it was John Abbott and Rudy.
Yeah, so it was John Abbott and Rudy. Yeah, so Kelly Rudy's really made this big point this year to say this is not the Huberdeau we saw in Florida. This isn't a guy playing with one of the NHL's elite triggermen where he can just be this pass first guy. He's redeveloped himself really as this new age power forward. I'm not going to say he's the second coming of Jerome McGinley, but really has transformed himself and his game from playing along the perimeter to being a guy who's getting involved and playing in the messy areas and refinding his wrist shot, because that has been his bread and butter this year. His 24th of the year puts the Flames ahead 3-2. And you know, you say you weren't overly happy with the Canucks in the second. I can't say I was overly happy with the Flames either. I felt they were kind of letting the playoff atmosphere get the best of them. And we can see that throughout the game because we did have 8 penalty minutes. 4 penalties taken compared to Vancouver's 3. I just felt the Flames are a young team, and I'm not saying the Canucks are old by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a Flames team who wasn't expected to be anywhere near what this season has brought.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the young players are necessarily ready for that spotlight.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I definitely thought there was a couple of retaliation penalties from the Flames that I didn't necessarily like. Of course, the early one comes to mind. Yeah, as a whole, the second period was definitely just a weird one. I understand what you mean about not liking the Flames. You definitely don't want to necessarily use the word immaturity, because I don't think they're immature as a group. I just think that sometimes in the heat of the moment, plays can get away from them, which does just kind of come as you work your way forward in your NHL career. But I have to say the third was night and day from a Vancouver perspective in terms of finally generating offense. I mean, the biggest thing we've heard all year long is critique of head coach Rick Tocchet not being able to get shots, and now in arguably the biggest game of the whole season, I believe it was 12 shots after the first 40 minutes, and that just did not feel good. Yeah, 12 shots for the first 40 minutes, and tonight was the first night of the year where the Canucks were able to win a game that they entered the third down by a goal or more. They had never made a third period comeback. So tonight, it was the first response I've seen from the Canucks in a long time, emotionally especially.
And I have to say, I hate the fact that I'm going to go to the well that every other sports reporter in the country of Canada has gone to. The Flames' emotional leader is Nazem Kadri. And if the Flames are going to have young Nazem Kadri moments like I feel Connor Zary had today, we're going to have the results that young Nazem Kadri had, and that's a lot of first-round exits. But I digress. Let's head to the recap of the third period. 1 goal in the third. It was EP40. Kind of gets in behind the Flames defense, and no one really covered him all that well, and he gets to a rebound and puts it behind Dustin Wolf.
Yeah, really not a chance in hell there for Dustin Wolf on that rebound. It comes straight to Pettersson. I do want to quickly highlight how great of a game I thought it was for Victor Mancini, of course, who came across in the JT Miller trade, and really, up until now, has not been a regular NHLer, but the Canucks trying to utilize him as one of the bottom pairing. I thought he had a quiet few games when he was starting his NHL career, but also didn't look out of place, which when you're a young defender can be hard to do. tonight he didn't just not look out of place. He was genuinely controlling play, and I thought he set up a few good chances tonight. But tonight, that Pettersson one, of course, being the one that got finished. But the Canucks have possibly found a bit of a gem in the rough here in Victor Mancini, given wasn't that much of a valued piece.
I'm going to draw a parallel to the Flames' third pairing and Braden Pahal, who is one of the guys who has not left our rotation of our 4th, 7th defenders. He's kind of been, because he was kind of a throw-in in the deal that brought him here last year. That was I can't remember which trade it was. Anyways, I think, was it Vegas? Yes, it was the Vegas trade. No, he was a waiver claim before the Vegas trade. There we go.
A waiver claim turning into something. I mean, that's always great for a franchise.
Yep, and so 60 minutes of hockey solves nothing. Neither does the bonus 3-on-3. And oh my God, we were talking about this too. We need to bring that over and back rule that the KHL has, because that might have been 2 minutes of hockey interspersed with 3 minutes of cardio.
It's tough because it's so exciting. I really do see what the NHL is trying to do with 3-on-3. That moment where Calgary got a 2-on-1, a great save from Lankinen at one end, and the Canucks get a 2-on-1 the other way. Hronek misses, then Pettersson gets shut down by Wolf close. That was such electric, exciting hockey. But as you said, that was kind of one 45-second segment between teams just cycling it up through the middle, looking for a chance, not getting a chance, cycling it up through the middle, looking for a chance, not getting a chance, cycling it up through the middle.
Because
it gets a lot at times.
So I'm a Magic the Gathering player, so I'm going to go into a little bit of a game design space for this. Because when we think of 3-on-3 overtime, we think of the excitement. We think of the first 3 years of 3-on-3.
It was so fun when it first came out.
Because nobody understood how important puck possession was in terms of the 3-on-3 overtime. But as soon as that one switch was found and tripped, 3-on-3 overtime hasn't been the same.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I hate the shootout. I think we're deciding hockey games by not playing hockey. But there needs to be an evaluation of the overtime format, because I hear everyone like, oh, let's just go to 10 minutes to 3-on-3 and then into the shootout. I'm like, no, that doesn't change anything. It would even, I think, make we don't have an ideal setup. Oh, we're going to cycle into neutral and reset anyways. It's just, there needs to be a shot clock or the over and back rule, or you're not allowed to change on the fly in overtime. Maybe that's what the change is. But of course, I'll be viewed as a radical for suggesting we need to change the rules of hockey to not play, or to play more hockey, to not play it. You understand what I'm saying, folks. It's just, I don't know. And I'm just looking at this comment from Johnny Goodrow Forever in chat. And we'll talk a little bit about this after we go through the shootout. But remind me to talk about Ryan Huska and the Flames.
I know you wanted
period.
to get to him. Yeah.
Okay, but we'll go to the shootout. Frost stopped. Elias Pettersson, might have had the easiest goal of his career because Dustin Wolf didn't even drop into the butterfly, and it just
the shootout. That was really funny. I will say, good fake by Pettersson though. If you look at his eyes on that one angle on the replay, and then the little pump fake, he does look like he's going high. So I understand why Wolf kind of didn't bite. And then it was funny because Calgary, the first shootout goal you had was exactly the same.
Yeah. So it was Anderson stopped, DeBrusk stopped. Or they listed as a save, but it was DeBrusk putting it high off the glass.
Yeah.
Huberdeau with, again, I don't know, if it is kind of that knuckleball where you kind of just shoot it off the heel of your stick that led to both of those goals. Suter stopped. Igor Sharangovich. Okay. We're going to start my rant here. Igor Sharangovich has been one of the worst Calgary Flames over the last 2 weeks. Why is he the one that you're sending over the boards in a clutch situation? You have Joel Farabee, who has been hot over the last week and a half. You have any number of guys. You didn't send Nazem Kadri out. You sent Huberdeau. I'd send, there's 3 or 4 guys I'd be sending out before Igor Sharangovich gets to get his ass off the bench. But Ryan Huska. Anyways, then Connor Garland makes no mistake. Got Wolfie flopping like Dominic Hasek out there and ends the game. I'll say this, Garland came in with speed, and I think that's actually something that a lot of NHLers need to bring in to the shootout. Like, because everyone wants to go at 2 kilometers an hour. Like, they couldn't get a speeding ticket in a speeding zone, or a speeding ticket in a playground zone if they tried. You guys had Garland go in with some pace, and it was also DeBrusque who went in with some pace.
Yeah.
Don't let the goalie get too used to just seeing guys coming in at a snail's pace.
Everyone wants to be Evgeny Kuznetsov, and then not that many guys have the hands in a shootout to actually be able to pull it off with that level of consistency.
Yep. So that's your final. So, I think there's a couple things I want to talk about before we go into period number 2. And that's, we're going to probably see some form of Department of Player Safety spinning the wheel regarding Connor Zary. It was not a good hit. I'm not going to defend head contact like that. Because you can't. Concussions being what they are and knowing what we know. Can't lay a cross check to the side of a guy's head. I think that's pretty inexcusable. The fact that it was only called interference, that kind of rattles me. And then he gets a second penalty in today's game, which was a much weaker cross check called a cross check, when the officials had hadn't taken extra guys for scrums. Like, number one, we're going to see the Department of Player Safety, but officiating once again rearing its ugly head in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's the only thing consistent about officiating is the inconsistency. I mean, I say this year, but it's every year. I don't think there's ever a year where you're truly happy with the way things are officiated. The Zary hit was one of those ones where I didn't think it was that bad as the play broke down. And then you see the replay of it, and it's, wow, yeah, he got him high. And he got him kind of, he followed through on it, too. So it wouldn't shock me to see him get a game. But as you mentioned as well, given that he does not have a track record of this, and the player emerged uninjured, I do think that we'll probably...
Was he uninjured? He did miss 2 periods.
He did miss 2 periods. No, pardon me. I forgot that was the play that took out DPD. That's right.
Yeah.
I was looking at the wrong note here. Yeah, well, in that case, yeah, I think that you could definitely argue for a game. Of course, no history. But yeah, it's not a great hit.
And that's ugly for the Flames, because we don't know the status of Michael Backlund. So you saw Zary have to play the remainder of today's game at center. So if you don't have him for the game against the Abs, we're in a bit of trouble there as it goes down the middle. As we are not deep. I told you that we're not deep down the middle. Here is where we're at. So here are players that, according to Elite Prospects, are listed as centers. Nazem Kadri, he's your top line center. Check.
Okay, good.
Move it on. Michael Backlund listed as a center. Yep, check mark. Yeah. That's probably true. Morgan Frost brought in to play center. We've seen him play 3 games at center as a Flame. Yeah, maybe. Igor Sharangovich hasn't played at center since 2 weeks in the season. Is that where we want to go? And as I've said, has not been very good recently. So probably we'll put an X on that one. He's a winger. Connor Zary could be suspended. He's been playing on the wing of that Backlund line for the last 3 weeks. Not a center. Martin Pospisil, he played on the wing on our 4th line. Or our 3rd line. Or whatever line you want to see Martin Pospisil on it. Running into people. Not fighting because he has concussion problems. Not a center. Okay, thank you, Elite Prospects. You've only got him listed at center. Kevin Rooney, do you want to play him as your 2nd line center? I don't think there is a world where Kevin Rooney should be above a 4th line center.
That's the thing, is a lot of these names you're mentioning, I don't mind these names in your bottom 6, but it's the fact that you're going to need them to take significant minutes. I mean, Michael Backlund is playing many, many minutes, and you need the reliability that someone like Backlund brings, especially defensively. You're just not going to get for any of those guys. And yeah, I think there is a good chance that Zary will be suspended. Of course, talking about injuries, though, I mean, the Canucks are suffering the same bug. I think actually Calgary and Vancouver, 2 of the kind of teams that have really suffered the most. Of course, when JT Miller was here, he missed a significant amount of games. Quinn Hughes missed 10 of the last 13. Now it looks like DPD might be out, which sucks because he has been maybe the biggest success story of the year for Vancouver in a year where they have actually had so many unreal success stories. Despite how badly the year's gone, there's many stories you could point to for Vancouver as being, outlyingly amazing circumstances. Lankinen being one, Kiefer Sherwood, of course, DPD. Now it looks like Mancini as well. And they've been relying on DPD. Now that they've traded Soucy to the Rangers, which is a trade I did like, but now that he's gone, if DPD misses time, it's going to be back to the days of having someone in your lineup where you just really don't feel comfortable.
Does this mean that the Chaos Draft has to play through whatever he didn't play for tonight? That might have to be what you're at if DPD is unavailable. Because then you'll have the Chaos Giraffe and Hughes playing at far less than 100%. And I think that might have to be consideration for the Canucks.
No, 100%. The only issue with that, though, is that DPD is a lefty, but Myers, of course, over on the right side. So then you're having either someone switching, which the staff does not like to do, or you have to probably call up a guy from the AHL, which, on top of my head, who are they going to put out there?
Well, and they also noted on the broadcast that Derek Fortport took a former Calgary Flames legend, Derek Fortport, as we discussed previously, took a puck off the inside of his left hand, and he didn't miss time, but didn't look overly comfortable.
And he got his minutes reduced, too.
Yeah. So, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm definitely a little bit worried about the injury bug, but at the same time, I can't complain incessantly about it, given that, especially at this stage of the season, every team is dealing with something, and whether those players are able to play through it or not, you're just having to kind of push through. One, while we are on the subject of Canucks defense, though, that I absolutely have to shout out because he had a rough stretch, but he's been unreal now, is Filip Hronek. Given Hughes' injury, he has had to step up his minutes heavily. And this was someone that, I'll be so real, I myself on this show have doubted his abilities to be able to run a line by himself and to be able to handle big minutes, especially when he doesn't have the best defender in the world stapled to his line. Well, he's been doing that over Quinn Hughes' absence, and even again tonight when he was picking up big minutes, and he's looked great. He has been playing some of the best defensive hockey he's ever played, and it might have come at a little bit of a cost to the offensive upside we saw last season, but I'll take that every day of the week if Hronek turns into a minute-munching guy that you can rely on defensively, because you would not have been able to convince a Canucks fan that the statement Hronek good defensively would be possible at the start of this year.
And I'm sure there's some that don't feel that way regardless. But let's wrap a bow on that segment to steal Peter Klein's previous catchphrase, and we'll head on to period number 2, because we were supposed to talk about the injuries in period 2, but it kind of worked its way in. So, But before we do that, let's do another ad read. Are you looking for ways to help an upstart media company employ over 30 young journalists, broadcasters, and analysts across the country of Canada? You got a few spare bucks kicking around? Why don't you head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scene, Discord benefits, merch discounts, and opportunities to give us feedback through those various different ways. You can also get some special live shows. I know once Kaya is done with her school and graduating, Kaya's been talking about doing some gaming streams. Who knows, maybe me and Avery can do some baseball talk show stuff across the off season, but there will be lots more. If you're not even able to spare a few dollars, we do have a free tier available so you don't miss out. If you really want to help, make sure to click like and subscribe there, as well as here on YouTube, both on the Game Over Calgary channel and to Game Over Vancouver and to the various Game Over networks across Canada. And I am just going to say this because I don't think we've announced it officially anywhere. We are taking a little bit of a hiatus in Winnipeg, so please give our hosts as much grace as we can and help that network out. If you have anyone that you know in Winnipeg that is looking to get their foot in the door in sports media, let us know, because we are always looking for more people in that market. But anyways, rate us 5 stars if you're listening on the podcast realm. And once again, Patreon is patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for those tantalizing goodies and benefits. Now, I'm going off script here a little bit because we didn't really have a topic written down, but let's talk about the two goaltenders in this one. Obviously, Kevin Lankinen playing his second game in 2 nights. Obviously goes the full 65 plus here today and played a tough 60 minutes against Montreal last night. What are your thoughts on running the same young goaltender on back-to-back nights?
I love it because the thing is with Kevin Lankinen is at this point kind of too late to have buyer's remorse. You signed him long term, but the biggest question mark surrounding him is that he has never once really had a starter's workload. He's always been an NHL backup. Now he has been a very, very quality backup in this league. You look at his numbers in Nashville, they were top 20 numbers in the league, not for backups, for all goaltenders. So I really liked the Canucks bringing him on this season, and he has lived up to every penny and more. I think this contract could age pretty well for Vancouver. As you mentioned, he's on the younger side, so there isn't really worries about age, and he hasn't had too many troubles with injuries in the past. So I think Lankinen could end up being the goaltender of the future, given that the Canucks look like they're starting to shy away from Thatcher Demko, given just how much of a broken man he is on a physical level. I thought Lankinen played really well tonight. Something about his play on the road is just beyond stellar, although we really have to figure out what is up with the Canucks at home. Our home record rivals that of the Chicago Blackhawks. We have the same amount of home wins as they do this year, everyone. That really shows how great we play at Rogers Arena. But on the road, Lankinen is great. So honestly, I do think this might be just a 200 IQ ploy by Vancouver to sneak into that second wildcard spot to ensure we get the maximum amount of road games for the playoffs so that we can maximize our chances for a deep playoff run. It's genius by Alvin. And really, I think we got to let him cook.
Is it Alvin, or is it time we give the credit to the bald man behind the bench?
No. Yeah, hey, Rick Tocchet, he knows how to win. That's playoff hockey, baby. Let's go to the road.
Rick Tocchet, coaching genius, says everyone minus Kaya.
Yeah, I know Kaya's been banging that drum. I must admit, I've very much flitted back and forth on Tocchet. It's so hard to defend some of the games sometimes with just how stifled the offense seems to be. And, of course, it's so hard to tell whether or not that is an individual personnel basis or whether that's a game plan basis or the realistic option of probably somewhere in between. But there have been some games this season where it's been tough to defend Tocchet. This team's been great defensively all season. But yeah, the offense has dried up just as much as Rick Tocchet's head.
Okay, but let's go to the other side of the ice with some people in hockey land saying that Dustin Wolf should not just be considered for the Calder, but should be in Vezina conversations. I heard that for the first time today, and I'm like, I heard the argument. It was some show out of the States that I didn't catch the name of. It wasn't Chicklets, so I can actually talk about it. So they were talking that Dustin Wolf is behind, as you said, one of the worst offensive teams. And then they broke down our defense. Like, Rasmus Andersson is, I'm not going to call him elite. He has not been elite this season. He has been good, but not great. Then you have his pairing of Kevin Ball, which is, if you had told 32 teams around the NHL that Kevin Ball was going to be a top pairing defender, I think 32 would have laughed at you, including Craig Conroy. Yeah. So that's your top pairing. Then you have Mackenzie Weegar, and as I said, the rotation of 7th overall defenseman. Who did he play with tonight, if I can bring that back up? Because my brain is broken and it is late. He was out there with... Was he with Hanley most of the night? Yes, he was. Joel Hanley. Again, great 7th defenseman, not somebody you want playing top 4 minutes.
He impressed me tonight, though. He had some big shot blocks.
And then had one bounce off the back of his skate into the back of the net.
That too. Although that was a kind of a bit of a freak goal. You know, that could have happened to anyone. I still thought overall, given that Joel Hanley was a name I wasn't actually 100% sure was real coming into tonight, I thought he played well.
But is he somebody you want playing on a playoff team 20 minutes a night?
I get your point. No, definitely not.
Exactly. And then you have Pahal, who, as I said, diamond in the rough, playing out there with Jake Bean. But as I see this, Braden Pahal only played 10 minutes. Jake Bean, Calgary native, played 13. So a little bit shaky. So when you take that into considerations, yes, the Flames play a style where it is a team defense rather than just the 6 players with that D strapped onto the roster sheet. But if that's your defensive core and you are a team that is last in the league in goals scored and second in the league in least goals against, should that not put your goaltender on that pedestal of, hey, this guy is not just good, he's elite? That's
No,
where
he's incredible. I have been saying all season long that I think Dustin Wolf should not just be in Calder consideration, he should be the Calder lock. The fact is, if you look at the betting odds, he's not even close to the odds-on favorite right now, and that is a shocking level of disrespect. I hate to hype up Calgary goaltending. I still have nightmares as a child watching Mika Kiprusoff stonewall my team, and it saddens me to think we might be entering a new golden age of Calgary goaltending, but Dustin Wolf is the real deal. I mean, back-to-back goaltender of the year in the AHL, and he is arguably having an even better year now in the NHL. It shocks me that people are going to give the secondary assist merchant Lane Hudson or Macklin Celebrini, who's been good, but let's not pretend it's been anything we haven't seen before in the NHL, over Dustin Wolf having one of the best rookie net-minding seasons I can recall. I mean, without Dustin Wolf, all due respect, this Flames team might be a lottery team, and Dustin Wolf is doing his best to single-handedly drag them into the playoffs, and he's doing a pretty good job at it.
And Dan Vidar's been like good too in the second half of the season, but if he had to carry the load that Dustin Wolf has carried, I don't think we're anywhere close. And Sammy Baines, just with the little factoid in the chat, the Flames actually drafted Rasmus Anderson with a second-round pick they acquired from the Sven Berchi to the Canucks trade. So thanks, Vancouver. But anyways,
good one.
We'll take it. But so we talked about the 2 goaltenders. We've talked a little bit about the injury bug. Let's talk now in our third period about, it kind of feels like whoever doesn't want this playoff spot is the one that's going to end up with it. But we got one more ad read before we get there. And before we do this ad read, reminder, we're heading into the third period. We would love to hear from you guys as part of Overtime, where we go through the chat, read your questions, interact. So get those questions ready, get your brains going, and we'll look for them for Overtime. As I need to actually scroll on down. If you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video or go over to the Vancouver channel and hit subscribe, because there's some smart people on there too. And Kaya. Love you, Kaya. But hit subscribe on the channel, and you'll make sure to hit that notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. Listen to our podcast. Please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review to help us battle that algorithm. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter if you're still there, at Game Over NHL, on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn at Game Over Network. I am no longer on X, but you can find me on Blue Sky at Conrad Krausert at bsky.social. Where can people find you, Mr. Clarke?
Yeah, I am still on Twitter. I still use it a fair bit, but I'm also on Blue Sky as well, at Zach Clarke PXP. Yeah, always a good time talking hockey for both junior and NHL.
We just don't talk about the AHL or the AJHL anymore.
No,
for various reasons.
Yeah.
But you can also find us on the gameover.com, where I do believe we are having a newsletter come out at some point. Andrew's working on it, I swear. But let's kind of talk about the I don't want the playoff spot. You guys can have it. That's been going on back and forth. And obviously with the Flames and Canucks heading to overtime, we give the extra point to the other one of us, so that we're just like, we want one of us two to have it, but St. Louis, you just stay out there. Go away. Nobody wants it.
No, nothing for you, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really crucial stretch of games coming up for Vancouver here, and they can show whether or not they do want it, because I know exactly what you mean when it comes to the two teams feeling like they just don't want it. Some really tough games. Thankfully, I was on a flight last night, so I did not see Vancouver-Montreal. I got several texts from a lot of different people complaining about how unwatchable it was as a hockey game. And I got a lot of people texting me complaining about Rick Tocchet style offense. So obviously it works out tonight, but overall, it really has just felt like a season where, do either of these teams want to make the playoffs? The Canucks seemingly do by holding on to their players at the trade deadline, even though the prices were incredibly tantalizing. I did not like the management of the trade deadline, but it does show that technically the Canucks still want to make the playoffs. Woohoo, guys, we can contend.
And the Flames, much the same. We had the one deal prior to the trade deadline where we strapped rockets to a certain former Canuck and sent him to Philadelphia.
Hey, man, he'll score 40 again. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, for CSKA Moscow next year. But anyways.
You could join Ovechkin.
Oh my God, you're so right that Ovi's... Oh my God.
You know, he said he's done after he gets the milestone. That's where he's going. It'll be a dynasty. Ovechkin, Kuzmenko. The duo you never knew you needed.
Yeah, and like, I guess it's like the owners both want our teams to like make the playoffs because the Aquilinis and Murray Edwards really just want that 2 games of playoff revenue.
Apparently, it must just be the most money ever because it's entirely how the Canucks run. And I think that's what a lot of people on trade deadline day forgot about Francesco Aquilini, is that he probably said no to several trades. We heard rumors that Carolina and Brock Besser were trying to get something done right near the end of the trade deadline. Aquilini needs his playoff revenue. He's not going to let this team drop out of that. So that's why it's just going to be, as much blame as we put on Jim Benning, and I think a lot of it was very, very worthy. I do think that Aquilini holds this team back.
And there were rumors regarding Nazem Kadri going to the Leafs getting nixed by Murray Edwards. And like that's been the story around the Flames for the last decade, is that Murray Edwards cares more about his 2 games of playoff revenue than he cares about the Flames' future. Like why the Flames don't rebuild. Look at Murray Edwards and C-Sec in general.
Yeah.
So it's tough when you have owners that I will say I don't think Murray Edwards is mingling as much as I joke about on this show. But do I ever see the Flames making a trade willingly with the Toronto Maple Leafs after the whole general manager debacle? Not necessarily.
Yeah, maybe not.
Especially when apparently there was a deal agreed to and then reneged on, according to rumor.
Yep.
So, and I get that, like Murray being a businessman, once a deal is agreed to, whether it's on paper or verbalized, a lot of people will say then that's a deal. It doesn't matter if it was written down. But anyways, ownership is going to want to maximize profit every year. So as much as we as fans wanted to pretend that it is everything matters about the play on the ice and nothing else ever matters, no. There is dollars and cents that need to be made up and profits that are ideally made. Because if they aren't, we saw what happened in Winnipeg back before either of us were born, but we're hearing rumors again that...
And maybe again, yeah.
That there's not enough of a fan base. The Canadian dollar's not strong enough to pay for the players. There is a reality of that, and say what you will about the Aquilini family or Murray Edwards or any of the other members that make up Calgary Sports and Entertainment. These are people that have bought in for the long term. Because we're not far away from the Flames being the young gun era Flames, where it was Jerome McGinley, you came to see Jerome McGinley, he'll battle you into the playoffs, thank you very much, number 12. And the Canucks, like, let's go back to the early 2010s. Like, that was an unwatchable hockey team for a while there. And obviously the Aquilinis stepped in and kind of saved that team. And I don't think there was ever threats of them moving the way there was with the Flames, but it was not good after, let's try and be the Bruins East. And
It wasn't, but at the same time, it is really brutal to see some teams have kind of fully completed rebuilds or start to be emerging from rebuilds before the Canucks ever really did, because they never really truly rebuilt. They were always trying to be something, and sure, there were seasons where they didn't qualify for the playoffs, ended up getting higher draft picks, but there was never really a season like your Chicago or Buffalo or San Jose where they really just went for a tank.
And they bottomed out, and we're seeing that with the Flames, right?
But I think that would be a good thing, and that's what hastens a rebuild, is getting a really high level draft pick so you can get an immediate impact player. I mean, unless you mess it up and take a defenseman who's most known for a picture of him tired after a back skate, most of the time, a really high-ranking draft pick like that really accelerates and fuels a rebuild. And we definitely have seen the kind of lack of wanting to go into that for Vancouver for a long time. And now, at this season, I get it. I do. You've got Quinn Hughes. You need to keep him happy, and he wants to stay on a competitive team. I get it, but over the last decade, it has kind of felt like there have been a lot of futile seasons for Vancouver. So given the hope of last season, this has been an incredibly depressing and disappointing season for the Canucks.
Yeah, and then you're seeing that on our side of the Rockies, where we were talking about having some excitement about potentially being bad for a while, and being not necessarily wanting to be bad this year, understanding that we still have a lot of contracts and a lot of players that have things to play for that aren't tanking, but being bad next year, to be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, because I want to see more Gavin McKenna in my life. Getting to see him at the at the Circle K Classic was not enough. I want more of him.
Yeah.
And then I want DuPont, and then I want... But anyways, because you can't continue to rely on guys that you're finding down the draft boards. Those are the guys that propel you to have the depth that you need to be successful in this league, but they aren't going to be the guys that push you over the top.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you take a look, I hate to keep harkening back to trade deadlines, but if you take a look at the Stanley Cup winning teams of the last few deadlines, they've not been the ones making absolutely massive trades. They've been the ones adding depth, because that's what you need for your team. You need an already complete team heading into the season, that you just a few small pieces to iron out a few small weaknesses you see as the season goes along. You're already a deeply flawed team. That's when you should really be taking a step back, because to harken it back to our point about which team wants the playoff spot less, I mean, I'm sure that both will have a playoff appearance, but can anyone kid themselves into seeing either of these teams being a remote threat in the playoffs? I mean, it's really hard to see. Obviously, you could point towards the Flames having the Dustin Wolf factor. If he can elevate his game for the postseason, which you could see him doing, he could maybe steal you a couple games. But I can't see the Flames winning a series. And for Vancouver, I mean, we're one of the worst offenses in the regular season. Against playoff defenses, it's hard to see a Rick Tocchet style of hockey scoring more than a goal a night. And then really, how many 1-0 hockey games are you going to be able to win? So it's tough. Obviously, the franchises both technically want to make the playoffs, but it's hard to envision serious success for either of these teams this season.
Who will fall ass backwards into that final wild card is yet to be seen. But we'll head on over into, and I forgot to put on the third period graphic. Kaya, where were you? Thanks for the reminder. I've just been so mean to our friend Kaya this whole time. Kaya is going to come across the Rockies and absolutely murder me, and she has my address now. So I'm scared for my life.
Gotta be careful, yeah.
But let's head on in. And I've lost my doc now. What better way to support something that you love than by rocking it as clothing? Zach, I'm unfortunately going to have to cover your beautiful face off with some beautiful Calgary Flames merch. Game Over Apparel's line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, want to wear your love for goalies proudly with their live and die by the goalie design, and if you're a fan of either of these teams, maybe that's where you want to be. But hey, maybe you just need another mug like just was on the screen to warm your cold soul after your Flames or Canucks miss the playoffs in about 2 months. We've got that too. Shout out to Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg, who is designing all this. Scan that QR code down in the bottom of the screen if you want to head over to the Calgary store. Yeah, and if you scan it, it's just a clink away to get to the Vancouver store. Give it a look, give it an order. Help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Now, to get you back, I need to make sure I turn off the intro because I've done that a few too many times. Hey, I did it. I didn't screw it up
I'm
this
back,
time.
and I'm back normally.
I'm so proud of myself. Kaya, see, that's why you just never need to leave, because then you can't hear what I'm saying about you. But anyways, we're into our overtime segment where we're going to scan through the chat, answer any of your questions. We can answer questions about this game, about this season for both of these teams, about the battle to the end. That was David W's comment. A battle to the end, likely only either Canadian teams at its best this season will see playoff action. Yeah, it is kind of a sad year for a lot of the teams that aren't named the Winnipeg Jets and Toronto Maple Leafs. And I guess the Sens have
There's another one.
The Sens have a
Sens, baby. I'm so glad that I am a fan of two teams, because as depressing as the Canucks season has been, the Sens I have genuine hope for. And I realize that they are also a team that is not guaranteed a playoff spot given how tight the East is. But you watch out for Ottawa. They are coming. This is the year.
3 points up on the CBJ, who now hold that bottom playoff spot. Leapfrogging's the Canadiens du Montréal. Dale, Vancouver. Okay, we'll ignore all of that. More Ryan Huska hatred. And I gotta say, Ryan Huska, his play and direction for this team in the third period, he fully took the foot off the gas. Like, it's unexcusable. Like, how miserable park the bus hockey the Flames tend to play in the third period.
It's really funny because it actually felt like watching the Canucks.
Oh, it reminded me of Daryl Sutter hockey, and I got Daryl ran out of this town. So, like, Ryan, let's remember we're playing actual hockey in this province. I know you're on my TV and I just can't use chat. Oh, we're on a TV. Something we're both used to. Is Bax okay from Johnny Gaudreau forever? I haven't seen any reporting on that, but
yeah, we don't know.
Upper body injuries, that could be anything from wrists to fingers, and as a center, you kind of need both of those. And if it's Michael Backlund, it's not somebody you're going to say.
Only the best analysis on this show.
Well, but like as a center, Michael Backlund is not one of those guys who plays center and wing. He's been a pure center his whole career. So if his hand or his wrist is injured to the point where he can't take a face off, it's not like you can throw him on a wing to...
Yeah, no, I do entirely agree with you. If Backlund is hurt long term, I mean, you don't want to say the Flames are cooked, but we've already had a look at those 2C options, and I mean, if you want to have that push down the stretch, it's going to be really hard to not have it.
So this kind of whole game kind of encapsulates, because you only saw 7 minutes of Michael Backlund, how much Michael Backlund means to this Flames team. There's a reason he has the C on his chest. He means a lot to the team on the ice, and even if he's only there in the locker room, I think he still means having his leadership in that way is so desperately needed. Yeah, the reporting is just... nothing that has been reported. And so I'm just looking at the clip where they're looking at, and it was an awkward collision.
Yeah, it's weird. It looks like it's a hit he kind of tries to throw, then a bit of a reverse hit from the Canucks defenseman. It's just one of those ones where it's awkward contact. It's not a big hit, but it's just kind of the wrong angle.
Yeah, and to me, that screams shoulder.
Yeah,
whenever that happens.
That is.
Because if you look at the Mancini and Backlund hit, it's kind of immediately hangs that shoulder, pulls it back, and tries to wiggle it back in place. If it's hurt long time, it means it's a nose job. Definitely. Thank you, Kaya. I hope Lightning McQueen loses the Piston Cup. Anyways, let's see some more. Look for some more questions. Where's Anand? Anand's got a break. He's being super busy with school. Just had one of his capstone projects capped off. So shout out to one of our other co-hosts. And big shout out to the Calgary Flames as their next game, as Johnny Gaudreau said, is Bring on the Avs. Will also be the Pride game at the Saddle Dome. So I just found out I got tickets, so I'll be in attendance, probably with this flag behind me. Of note, actually, this is a trivia question. We've all known that Jonathan Huberdeau is a highly skilled player. Actually, you probably heard this on the broadcast. Let's see if you're paying close enough attention. How many hat tricks does Jonathan Huberdeau have in his career?
So I wasn't paying attention at all. So this is a total guess. 4.
1. He
Wow.
was potentially looking at his second today. So I guess that's kind of been his MO. He's been that assist first guy for most of his career, especially.
Yeah, and I knew that, but I still would have thought he had more. He's got a decent shot on him.
Mm-hmm. So, not really any more questions in chat, but I got one question for you. Predictions, because you guys are out of the playoffs. Who takes home the hardware over in it's the PIJHL?
It's the PJHL. However,
Okay.
on sites like Elite Prospects, it is the PIJHL because there is a Junior C League out in Ontario, which is also called the PJHL. And that apparently was there first because the PJHL, the league I was in, it was there first, but it went away for a while. Then when it came back, the other one existed. So, yeah, but the league itself is PJHL. I mean, it was interesting. I was expecting the conference finals to be some of the best series we've seen. The two best teams in the league in the regular season were over on the other side. Everyone was looking forward to that series. Going to be so good. And it was a sweep. So it was kind of a bit of a letdown in the conference finals. Neither of the series were particularly close. So the finals, the Harold Britton side is set. It's going to the Ridge Meadows Flames, defending champions, against the winner of Delta versus Richmond. But barring a very improbable Richmond comeback, it's going to be Ridge Meadows Delta. I'm going to predict Ridge Meadows making the back-to-back. They're such an incredibly skilled team, and they lost pretty much no one to aging out last season. Now, that can't be said this season. They're losing everybody, but this is the final dance for that team, and I think they're going to get it done again.
And I'll give you my AHL preview, even though I'm not really watching as much AJHL. Yes, I forget the junior portion there. The Whitecourt Wolverines did win and clinched their division already. His seeding is already decided in the AJ. The Canucks have not, however, clinched the top spot. They will be likely the top seed. And you know what? Even though I have some bad blood with the Calgary Canucks as an organization, I love their players. Jack Plandowski, 76 points this year as an overager. Captain Bowden Singleton missed a lot of games, 58 points. And some guy named Nolan DuPont has some famous brother, has been racking
Wonder
up.
who that could be.
I don't know. But a few more games left in the season. I think the Canucks have to be considered as one of the favorites. And I'll give my support for the boys who I used to commentate for. So let's go with the Calgary connection. As I said, their season isn't quite over. They got one last weekend before the playoffs begin here in Alberta. Now that we've got our junior hockey, I'll give one last shout out for any final questions. Zach.
Yeah, I guess
I was gonna ask a question.
You go.
Who, if they decide the Canucks say, you know what, DPD can't go, and one player has to make the switch over to the other side, even though the coaching staff hates it, who do you think that name is if they don't call someone up?
I could see it being someone like Marcus Pettersson. I think that he's responsible enough. The staff really love him. And he has a little bit of experience switching over to the other side. I could see him getting moved over to the left. Although I could also definitely see a call-up from the AHL. The Canucks really do like that next man mentality. I think something along those lines. I am very hopeful that DPD will be able to step back in, though, because as I said, he's been one of the biggest success stories of the season. Just before we end, I did want to shout out, I harp on Pettersson so much on this show. He had a great game tonight. It was very, very noticeable, and he has quietly had a good stretch of games. Now, he absolutely has to keep that up, but, we ragged at him all season long, so we got to give him his flowers when he earns it as well.
And I'll talk about who I think I will see called up for the Flames if Michael Backlund's injury is in the medium term. And since you're a Sens fan, I think I will give the nod to former Ottawa Senator Clarke Bishop. He's been lighting it up at the AHL level for the last few seasons with the Wranglers. 35 points in 52 games this year. He's somebody I'd feel more comfortable in that third line center role than Kevin Rooney. Keep the Runes on that fourth line. Bring in somebody who has a little bit more offensive flair. But I'm not seeing any more questions. Kaya, please don't kill me. You are a good friend.
Great host. And doing a lot of schoolwork. Best of luck with your homework today. To all of our friends in chat, whether that's Johnny Goudreau forever, Mr. Wilkins, Sammy Baines was around, David W. Thank you so much for coming and joining us for this Game Over crossover. As I said, the Flames play the Abs in the next one. For the next crossover, it will be a little bit later. As I said, I am going to the game, so fans, please do keep that in mind. If you're looking for the Game Over Flames, it will be a little bit late because I'm actually hosting Game Over that day as well. And I can't open the slides for some reason to see who is doing the next. Or wait, is that one of the ones that we didn't have somebody ready to go for you guys? So we'll figure out who's doing the next Vancouver game at some Unfortunately, point. Yeah, this next upcoming Blackhawks game is going to be missed by Game Over Vancouver. But Sunday, the game against Utah, that's way more important, and that'll be the one, the only Kaya.
Kaya May will be your next host. So please be kind. Remember, it's just a game. We will see you next time here on Game Over.